Hello, today we are going to be learning how to do two factoring methods called GCF and DOTS. First, we're going to learn how to do GCF. First, we're going to have to list the prime factors of each number, then multiply those factors into both numbers into having a common number. If there's no common number, then that means the GCF is 1. So this is our first example. So how we would do this is that there are 3 terms. This is one term, this is the second term, and this is the third term. When you do that, we're going to use something called the ladder method, in which we write only the number first, which is 16, 32, and then another 16. And then we find a number that can multiply into each 3 of these numbers that will make it the most simple. So the number in this one would be 16, as that would equal to as that would equal to 1, 2, and 1. And then because the 16 is on the outside, we were going to have to put 16 on the outside, and we're going to divide. Technically, we just divided 16 within all these. And that would give us 1, 2, and 1. That's another way you can do it. If you can't do the ladder method, it's basically like the same thing. So now we're going to write down our new equation, which would be 60 on the outside, and then in parentheses it would be 2x, because 16 divided by 16 equals 1, and the remainder would be 1, an invisible one in the front, but we don't need to write that. You just need to write x2, exponent 2, and then we have a 2 here, but we still have the x here. And in this problem, it's a plus, so it would be 2x remaining. And because there is no variable here, and 16 divided by 16 equals 1, you're just going to write a 1 here, and this would be our final answer, our new equation. But what if there are no numbers and there's only a variable and an exponent? How will you factor this in using GCF? Well, you basically just take the lowest number, the lowest exponent, which would be x2. So this would be just your answer. Say there is, but what if there is like, say a problem looks like this. There is only one variable and the other number doesn't have a variable or an exponent or whatever. How would you factor this? Well, you basically just rewrite these numbers, find the lowest, which is 5. And your new would just be y plus 6, but your lowest variable exponent would just be your, because there's nothing over here, you just don't write anything, you don't need to change it. This would be like your final answer. Next. And now here are some examples. These are some equations that you have to do. Remember, you have to simplify it to its simplest terms to create your new equation. Now we are going to go on to doing dots with IB.
So first we would find the common multiple, and then you have 2, so you separate them and then you simplify it. So let's do the first one together. So let's rewrite it. So dots stands for difference of 2 squares. So this is what it looks like. So first we found out you could square 64 into 8. So parentheses 8. And then t squared that, it gives you t. So your 2 factors would be 8 minus t and 8 plus t. If you multiply this out, it gives you 64 minus t squared. Now we're gonna isolate it, simplify it. So 8 minus t equals 0. And that's for both sides. Both sides are equal to 0. So 8 plus t goes to 0. So you bring 8 on the other side, so you get negative t minus 8 because you subtract it. So it'll be, oh, so it'll be t equals to positive 8 because you would divide negative 1 on both sides in order to get rid of the negative sign on the variable. So the same thing for this side. In order to move the positive 8 to the right-hand side, you would subtract 8 on both sides, which gives you t equals negative 8. So these are the two values for t you can use. Because if you square negative 8, it gives you positive 64. And you square positive 8, it gives you positive 64. Because if you square it, it's the same positive. Okay, let's do this question together. So let's rewrite this again. 9 equals x to the 4th power. So you're going to find the square of both sides. So 9 squared is 3. X to the power of 4 is x squared. So you would separate it into two factors. So your first factor would be 3 minus x squared. Second factor would be 3 plus x squared. Now, same thing for the other one. If you multiply this out, it would give you 9 minus x to the 4th power. Now, this is actually your final answer, and I'll show you why. So if you were to simplify it like before, 3 minus x squared equals 0, you would have negative x squared equals to negative 3. Then you divide negative 1 on both sides. So you have x squared equals to 3. So you have x radical 3. So this is one value. But this value wouldn't work out, and I'll show you why. 3 plus x squared equals to 2. Equals to 0. So then x squared equals to negative 3 because you subtract 3 on both sides. But this is the tricky part. If you were to square it, it would look like this, but this is actually not computable. You cannot have negative inside a radical. So if you were to do it a little bit more advanced, I would say, you can do the imaginary number, which is I squared. I squared is equal to negative 1. So radical 3 I squared. But normally we would stick to this one because this is still not computable. You cannot have a negative in a radical. So these are some practice questions you could do. Just pause the video and then you can practice on your own. And then you can double check by asking us on the Google Classroom or emailing us. That is all for today's lesson. So today we learned how to do GCF and DOTS. GCF is greatest common factor. DOTS is difference of two squares. So yeah, that's it for this lesson, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.